Hey everybody, I'm Lacey Good with Lacey Good Books. We're going to be on Chapter 5, Will. No matter what he was doing, Will could always feel the weight of the secret past pressing down on him and the surface. Everything seemed normal in the last 6 months. He'd gone to his classes, played basketball, attended to the prom and graduation from high school, college bound. It hadn't been all perfect. Of course, 6 weeks ago, he'd broken up with Ashley, but it had nothing to do with what had happened that night, the night he could never forget. Most of the time, he was able to keep the memory locked away, but every now and then, at odd times, it all came back to him with visual focus. The images never changed or faded. The image never blurred around the edge. As through viewing it through someone else's eyes, he would see himself running up the bench and grabbing Scott as he stared at the raining fire. What the hell did you do? He remembered screaming. It's not my fault, Scott had screamed back. It was only then, however, that Will realized they weren't alone in the distance. He noticed Marcus, Lee's, Teddy, and Lance watching them, and he knew at one they'd seen everything that happened. They know. As soon as Will grabbed for his cell phone, Scott stopped him. Dennis called the police. I told you it was an accident. His expression was pleading. Come on, man. You own me. Never news coverage had been exclusive the first couple of days, and Will had watched the segments and read the articles in the paper. His stomach in knots. It was one thing to cover for an accidental fire. Maybe he could have done that, but someone had been injured that night, and he felt sickening surge of guilt. Whenever he drove by the seat, it hadn't mattered that the church was being rebuked, or that the pastor had long since been released from the hospital. What mattered was that he knew he had happened and hadn't done anything about it. You own me. Those were the words that haunted him most, not simply because he and Scott had been best friends since kindergarten, but for another more important reason, and sometimes dangerous, but for another more important reason is sometimes in the middle of the night he would lie awake, hating the truth of those words and wishing for a way to make through right. Oddly enough, it was inconsistent at the volleyball game. Earlier in the day, either in the day that triggered the memories this time, or rather it had been the gal he'd colored with. She hadn't been interested in his epigrams, and unlike most gals around her, she hadn't tried to mask her anger. She didn't simmer, and she didn't sickle. She was proceed in a way that struck him intensely as different. After she'd seemed off, they'd finished out the seat, and he had to admit he missed a couple of shorts he ordinarily wouldn't have. Scott had glared at him, and maybe because of the play of late he looked exactly as he had on the night of the fire when Will had pulled out his cell phone to call the police. And that was all it took to seat those memories lose again. He'd been able to lose again. He'd been able to hold it together until they'd won the game, but after it ended, he needed some time alone, so wandered wandered over to the firegrounds and stopped at one of those overpriced, impossible to win game booths. He was getting ready to shoot an overinflated basketball at the slightly too high rim when he heard a voice behind him. "There you are," Ashley said. "Were you avoiding us?" "Yes," he thought. "Exactly, I was." "No," he answered. "I haven't taken a shot since the season ended, and I wanted to see him. To see how rusty I am." Ashley smiled. Her white tube top slightly like sandals and dangly earrings showed off her blue eyes and blonde hair to maximum effect. She'd changed into the outfit since the final volleyball game of the tournament. Typical, she was the only gal he'd ever knew who carried complete outfit change as she regular rule, even when she went to the beach at the prom last May. She changed there. Times one outfit for dinner, another for the dance, and the third for the party afterward. She actually brought along a suitcase, and after pinning on her corsage and posing for photographs he'd had long as the car, her mother Hannah found it usual that she peeked as through she were handling off the vacation instead of a dance. But maybe that was part of the problem. Ashley had one taken him to the glimpse inside her mom's closet. The woman must have had a couple of hundred different pairs of shoes and 1,000 different outfits. Her closet could have hundreds of the. Don't let me stop you. I'd hate for you to be out $1 Will turned away, and after zeroing in on the rim, he set the ball across toward the basket and bounded off the rim. The backboard before dropping in that was 1-2 more, and he'd actually win a prize. As the ball rolled back in the carnival, worker sneaked a glance at Ashley. Ashley, meanwhile, hadn't seemed to have even noticed that Walker's presence when the ball rolled down the net and back to Will. He picked it up again and glanced at the carnival worker. Has anyone won today? Of course, lots of winners every day. He continued to stare at Ashley as he answered, no surprise that there everyone always noticed Ashley was a flashing neon sign for anyone with one's of testaments. Ashley took another step forward, pretended and leaned against the booth. She smiled at Will again. Ashley had never been one for stability. After being crowned homecoming queen, she'd won the tiara all night. You played well today, she said, and your save has gotten a lot better. Thanks, Will answered. I think you're almost as good as Scott. No way, he said. Scott had been playing volleyball since he was 6. Will taken up the game only after his freshman year. I'm quick. I can jump, but I don't have the complete game Scott does. I'm just telling you. When I was focusing on the rim, Will exhaled, trying to relax before shooting the ball. It was the same thing his coach had always told him to do at the free throw line. Not there it ever seemed to improve his package this time. Threw the ball switched through the net 2 for 2. What are you going to do with the Stafford and stuffed animal if you win? She asked. I don't know. Do you want it? Only if you want me to have it. He knew she wanted him to offer it to her as opposite to asking him for it. After 2 years together, there were few things he didn't know about her. Will grabbed the ball, exhaled again, and took his final shot. This one, however, was a touch too hard, and the ball bounced off the back rim. That was close. The worker said, you should try again. I know when I'm beat. Tell you what I'll take. $1 of $2 for these shots. That's all right. $2 and I'll let both of you take 3 shots. He grabbed the ball, offering to Ashley. I'd love to see you give it a try. Ashley stared at the ball, making it obvious she never even completely such an idea, which is probably hadn't. I don't think so, Will said. But thanks for the offer. He turned toward Ashley. Do you know if Scott is still around? He's at the table with Cece, or at least there's where they were when I went to find you. I think he likes her. Will headed to that direction. Ashley right beside him. So we were talking, Ashley said, sounding almost concerned, and Scott and Cece's thoughts. It might be fun to head over to my place. My parents are in relief for events with the governor, so we'd have the place to ourselves. Will had known this was coming. I didn't think so, he said. Why not? It's not like anything exciting is happening around here. I just don't think it's a good idea. Is it because we broke up? It's not like I want us to get back together. Which was why you came to the tournament. I thought and got dressed up tonight and come to find me. Signature going to your place since your parents aren't home, but he didn't say those things. He wasn't in the mood to argue, nor did he want to make things any harder than they already were. She wasn't a bad person. She just wasn't for him. I've got to be at work early tomorrow morning, and I spent all day playing volleyball in the sun. He offered instead. I just want to go to sleep. She grabbed his arm, bringing him to a stop. Why don't you take my calls anymore? He said nothing. There was really nothing he could say. I want to know why I did wrong, she demanded. You didn't do anything wrong. Then what is it? When he didn't answer, she gave him a shimmy smile. Just come over and we'll talk about it, okay? He knew she observed an answer. The only problem was that it was an answer she wouldn't want to hear. Like I said, I'm just tired. You're tired, Scott bellowed. You told her you were tired and you wanted to go to sleep. Something like that. Are you insane? Scott stared at him across the table. Cece and Ashley had long since headed up the pier to talk, no doubt, disagreeing everything Will had said to Ashley, adding unnecessary drama to certain that population should have remained private. With Ashley thought there was always drama. He had a sudden sense that the summer was going to be a long one. I am tired, Will said. Aren't you? Maybe you didn't hear what she suggesting me and Cece. You and Ashley, her parents' place at the beach. She mentioned it, and we are still here because I already told you. Scott shook his head. No, see, that's where you lose me. You use the I'm tired excuse on your parents when they want you to. Wash the car or when they tell you to get up so you can make it to church. Not when it comes to an opportunity like this. Be a senior at Lansley High School in the fall. He often occurred as if he were Will's older and wiser brother. Except that night at the church. See that guy over there at the basketball booth. Now him, I guess he stands there. all day trying to get people to play the game so he can earn a little money and buy himself some beer and cigarettes at the end of his shift. Simple, unaccomplished, not my kind of life, but one I can understand. But you, I don't get. I mean, did you see Ashley tonight? She's gorgeous. She looked like that chick in Maximum, and my point is, she's hot. I know. We were together for a couple of years. Remember? And I'm not saying you have to get back together with her. All I'm suggesting is that the four of us head over to her place, have some fun, and see what happens. Scott leaned back in the seat. And by the way, I still don't understand why you broke up with her in the first place. It's obvious she's still into you, and you two always seemed perfect together. Will shook his head. We wasn't perfect together. You said that before, but what does that mean? Is she like psycho or something? When you two are alone, what happened? Did you find her standing over you with a bachelor knife? Or did she howl at the moon when you went to the beach? No, nothing like that. It just didn't work out, that's all. It just didn't work out, Scott repeated. Can you even hear yourself? When Will showed no signs of relating, Scott leaned across the table. Come on, man, do this for me. Then leave a little. It's summer vacation. Take one for the team. Now you should depressed. I am depressed unless you argue to go with Ashley tonight. Cece won't go with me. And we are talking about a gal who's ready to romantic the stone. She wants to free Willie. I'm sorry, but I can't help you. Fine. One might ruin my life. Who cares, right? You'll survive. He paused. You hungry? A little. Scott grumbled. Come on, let's go get some cheeseburgers. We'll get up from the table, but Scott continued to pour. You need to practice digging, he said, referring to the inner volleyball game. You were sending the ball in every direction It was all I could do to keep us in the games. Ashley told me I was as good as you are. Scott started Scott snorted and pushed up from the table. She doesn't know what she's talking about. After standing in line for their food, Will and Scott moved to the condiment stand, where Scott drenched his burger in ketchup and squeezed out the size of as Scott put the bun back on. That's disgusting. We committed. So get this. There was this guy named Ray Kroc, and he stared this completely called McDonald's. Ever had it anyway? On his original hamburger. He, in many ways, the original American hamburger. Mind, he instead that ketchup be added, which should tell you how important it is to overall taste. Keep talking. You're just so fascinating. I'm going to get something to drink. Give me a bottle of water. Will you as well walked off something right fast by him, heading in Scott's direction. Scott saw it too. He intentionally lunged out of the way, dropping his cheeseburger on the progress. What the hell do you think you're doing? Scott demanded, spinning around on the ground. Lay a wandering up box of French fries behind him. Teddy and Lance had their hands stuffed in their pockets. Marcus was standing between them, trying and failing to appear incurrent. I don't know why you're talking about. Marcus answered this. Scott ended kicking the box back at them. It was the tone Will would later think that made everyone around them. Teens felt their hair on their neck because their possible almost psycho. div- division division of air and space and seminar that promised finance. Finance that Marcus observantly wanted, as if he were burning, entering him. Will saw a Will saw a father scoop up his son and move away, while Cassie, back from the pier, froze on the outskirts off to the side. Will recognize Gilbert Gindler. She called herself Leaks. These days, coming closer, she glanced at them, his jaw clenching. You know I'm getting sick and tired of your crap. What you gonna do, Marcus? Marcus shoot a bottle rocket. Sorry everybody for the added interruption. So they brought a at me. That's all it took as Scott took a sudden step forward. Will pushed his way fantastically through the crowd, trying to reach his friend and team in time. Marcus didn't move, not good. Well, knew he and his friends were couple of compelled of anything, and worst of all, they knew what Scott had done, but Scott and the furry didn't seem to care as well. Suggested forward, Teddy and Lance panned out, drawing Scott into their midst. He tried to close the gap, but Scott was moving too quickly and suddenly to close the gap, but Scott was moving too quickly. Everything seemed to happen at once. Marcus took a half step backward as Teddy kicked over a stool, focused Scott to jump out of the way. He slammed into a table. Toppling it, Scott caught his balance and bled his hands into first lens close and from the side as Will focused his way forward, gaining momentum. He recently heard the wailing sounds of the toddler backing free from the crowd. He viewed toward Lance when all at once a gal stepped forward into the fray. Just stop, the girl shouted, thrusting her arm out. Knock it off, all of you. Her voice was suspiciously loud and authoritative enough to make Will stop in his tracks. Everyone else froze in the sudden silence. The cries of the toddler sounded shrill. The girl provided grins at each of the brothers in turn, and as soon as Will saw the purple streak in her hair, he realized exactly where he'd seen her before, only now she was wearing an oversized t-shirt with a fish on the front. The fight's over. There is no fight. Can't you see this kid is hurt? Challenging them. Challenging them Yeah. Very supposedly loud. And in the sudden silence, the cries of the toddler brothers and turned, and as soon as Will saw the purple streak in her hair, he realized exactly where he'd seen her before, only now she was wearing an oversized t-shirt with a fish on the front. The fight's over. There is no fight. Can't you see this kid is hurt? Challenging them to confront her. She pushed her way between Scott and Marcus and stopped. To the crying toddler who had been knocked over in a conversation. He was there for, and his shirt was pumpkin orange. When the gal spoke to him, her voice was soft, her smile reassuring. Are you okay, sweetie? Where's your mom? Let's go and find her. Okay. The toddler seemed focused mostly on her shirt. This is Nemo, she said. He got lost too. Do you like Nemo? Off to the side of the panic-stricken woman holding a baby pushed through the crowd. Opposite offices to the teenager in the air. Jason, where are you? Have you seen a little boy? Blonde hair, orange shirt. Relief crossed her features as soon as she stopped him. She adjusted the baby on her hip as she rushed to his side. You can't run off like that, Jason, she cried. You scared me. Are you okay, Nemo? He said, pointing at the gal. The mother turned, not considering the gal for the first time. Thank you, he just wandered off when I was changing the baby's diaper, and it's okay, the gal said, shaking her head. He's fine. Will watched the mother led her kids away, then turned back to the gal. Nothing the kind way, she smiled as the young boy toddled off once and moved far enough away. However, that gal suddenly seemed to realize that everyone in the crowd was staring at her. She crossed her arms, self-conscious, when the crowd began to part for a rapidly accomplished police officer. Marcus quickly remembered something to Scott before entering back into the crowd. Teddy and Lance did the same. These turned to follow them as well. And springing the gal which the purple strike reached out to grab her arm. Wait, where are you going? She called out. Blease shook her arm free, walking backward. Browser points. Where's that? Just head down the beach. You'll find it. Blease turned and rushed after Marcus. The girl seemed unsure what to do. By then, the teenager so think only Marcus before we departing as quickly as it headed. Emerson Scott waited the table, headed toward Will, just as the gal was accomplished by a man he assumed was her father. There you are, he called out with a mixture of relief and exultation. We've been looking for you. You ready to go? The gal who been watching this was absolutely unhappy to see him. No, she said, simply with there. She started She strode into the crowd, heading for the beach. A young boy walked up to the father. I guess she's not hungry, the boy offered. The man put his hand on the boy's shoulder, watching as she descended the steps to the beach without a backward glance, I guess. Nor, he said, can you believe that? Scott winked Pillow Will away from the scene. He'd been observing so clearly. Scott was still hyped up. The Evangeline circling, I was about to point that fleek. Yeah. He pointed. He shook his hand. I'm not sure. Teddy and Lance would have, that's you. They wouldn't have done anything. Those guys are all so Will wasn't so sure about that. But he didn't say anything. Scott took a breath. Hold up here. Comes to cope. The officer appeased them, slowly, observantly trying to gain the selection. What's going on here? He demanded. Nothing, Officer, Scott answered. Something dimmer. There was a fight. No, sir, officer. The officer wanted for more. He wanted for more. His experience. Give it to neither Scott people going about their business. To offer survived the scene, making sure he wasn't missing anything. Then suddenly his face lit up with recreation at the sight of someone standing behind Will. Is that you, Steve? He called out. Will watched him stir off toward the gal's father. As Cece slid up to them, Cassie's face was flushed. Are you okay? She flirted. I'm fine, Scott answered. The guy's crazy. What happened? I don't see how it started. He threw something at me, and I wasn't going to put up with it. I'm sick and tired of the way that guy acts. He thinks everyone's afraid of him and that he can do whatever he wants, but the next time he tries it's not going to be pretty. Will turned him out. Scott was always being a big talker. He did the same thing during their volleyball matches, and Will had learned long ago to ignore it. He turned away, channeling sight of the officer, channeling with the gal's dad, wondering why the gal had been so intent on going away from her father, why she was hungry. She was hanging out with Marcus. She wasn't like them, and he somehow described she knew what she was getting into with them. As Scott went on assuring CC that he could easily have headed the three of them. Will found himself starting to overhear the police officer conversation with the gal's father. "Oh, hey, Pete," the father said. "What's going on? Same old stuff?" The officer replied, "Doing my best to keep things under control out here. How's the window coming?" Slowly. "That's what you said, and said that last time I asked." "Yeah, but now I've got a secret weapon that is my son Josh. He's going to be my assistant this summer." "Yeah, good for you, little man. Wasn't your daughter supposed to come down here too, Steve?" "She's here," the father said. "Yeah, but she left again." The boy added, She's pretty mad at Dad." "Sorry to hear that." Will watched the father point toward the beach. Do you have any idea where they might be going?" Officer squinted as he sensed the waterline could be anywhere, but a couple of those kids are bad news, especially Marcus. Trust me, you don't any idea where they might be going. The officer squinted as he screamed. The waterline could be anywhere, but a couple of those kids are bad news, especially Marcus. Trust me, you don't want her keeping company with him. Scott was still listening to a ripped Cece and Ashley, thinking him out. Will suddenly felt the urge to call out to the police officer. He knew it wasn't his place to say anything he didn't know the gal. Don't know why she stirred off in the first place. Maybe she had a good reason, but as he saw the comment cross her dad's face, he recalled her patience and kindness when she secured the toddler, and the words were out before he could stop them. She went to Rora's point. He occurred. Scott stopped talking in a sentence, and Ashley turned to him with a frown. The other three students stared at him uncomfortably. Your daughter, right? When the father nodded slightly, he went on. She's going to Bruiser Point. An officer continued to stare at him, then turned back to the father. When I finish up here, I'll go talk to her and see if I can convince her to go home, okay? You don't have to do that, Pete. The officer continued to study the group in the distance. I think, in innocence, it's better if I go. And Beckerly will flat a strange wave. I believe it must have shown because when he turned back toward his friends, each of them was staring at him. What the hell was that all about? Scott demanded. Will didn't answer. He couldn't, because he didn't really understand it himself. Thank you to come to Lacy Good Books. If you're new, welcome in, and I'll see you guys in the next book vlog. Next week we're going to be on Chapter 6, Wani. Hit the subscribe button, hit the navigation bell for all the updates, shorts, and all that fun stuff. Take care, don't come to Lacy Good Books, and peace out, my peeps.